Hello, welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm Michael Ayala in tonight for Vinnie Politan. And we begin this hour with the big trial that we've been covering here at Court TV, the Waffle House shooting trial out of Tennessee. Now today, the defense finished their case in chief by calling a psychologist and a forensic evaluator to the stand. That's when the state began their rebuttal case. Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter has been in the courtroom for it all and has a wrap-up of today's proceedings.
All the evidence is in for the Waffle House shooting trial as the defense put on its case and rested, and the prosecution put on a rebuttal case. The defense called two forensic psychologists in its case. Both evaluated the defendant and concluded he suffers from schizophrenia and as a result did not appreciate the wrongfulness of his actions when he shot up a Waffle House in the early morning hours of April 22, 2018. Dr. Rena Eisen further testified to Travis Reinking's previous encounters at the Waffle House.
December 6, 2017, he said in his journal that a waitress at the Waffle House was in the Secret Service and was giving him clues about Taylor Swift.
On cross-examination, Assistant District Attorney General Jan Norman's voice rose to a yell at various points as she pressed Dr. Eisen on whether Reinking's conflicted feelings about carrying out the shooting indicated he knew it was wrong.
Travis Reinking going down Torrid Soderlund, striking him 7 times.
The defendant did take the stand, but outside the presence of the jury to waive his right to testify.
And after considering your rights and asking any questions that you had regarding those rights, do you voluntarily and personally choose to waive your right to testify?
I do.
The prosecution's rebuttal case focused on offsetting what the defense claims was Reinking's motive and state of mind at the time of the crime by calling witnesses whose testimony seemed to support a more intentional plan of action and an awareness of right from wrong when he stole a car 5 days before the murders and purchased $1,700 in silver bars. In fact, a Davidson County Sheriff's deputy showed the jury a drawing made by the defendant on the 1-year anniversary of the mass shooting.
For the record, can you describe the artwork?
It looks like an individual, and there's a truck there. An individual appears to have some sort of item or weapon, maybe, that is firing some sort of projectiles at individuals inside a building that's labeled as Waffle House. And there are captions above some of the individuals in the establishment. There's a moon and there's a couple stars up in the sky.
And Michael, tomorrow we do expect closing arguments in the case before an extensive reading of jury instructions. We will be in a verdict watch here on Court TV tomorrow. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much to Chanley for that report. Now let's watch together some of Dr. Rena Eisen's testimony. Now, she was a psychologist the defense called to the stand today, and she talked to this jury about some of the delusions the defendant, Travis Reinking, had suffered from. Let's take a listen.
He made his first mention of the Waffle House in a journal entry in November 26, 2017. He said a woman said something to him that was similar to what he said out loud in his apartment by himself. In December 2017, he wrote some concerning things in his journals. He said that he'd still been communicating with aliens with telepathy, as well as multiple famous women. He reported that the aliens told him he was special and would unite all of the species in the universe. And then he also reported that the government was making attempts to kill him. And so there was this progression of him feeling like he was in more danger. He said that there were attempts made to kill him every day. He said they were poisoning him, trying to shoot at him, but the aliens were stopping it every time. And he reported concern that the aliens might not be able to stop them every time like they had been. In December 6, 2017, he said in his journal that a waitress at the Waffle House was in the Secret Service and was giving him clues about Taylor Swift. 2 days later, he reported that all of the people at the Waffle House were either in the CIA or the FBI, and that they poisoned his steak. On December 13th, 2017, he reported that a man at the Waffle House had a gun and wanted to shoot him, and that another one was the mayor. And then one of his last journal entries, he reported that someone broke into his apartment again, and that was in January 2018.
When someone with schizophrenia suffers these delusions, do they believe them wholeheartedly?
Yes.
And specifically, what's the definition of delusion?
Believing something that is not true against available evidence.
In the context of schizophrenia, is it something that even with, if a person is shown contrary proof, that they still wholeheartedly believe their delusion?
Yes.
And you made one statement about Mr. Reinking. You started out talking about some of his delusions, and you said it continued even when he was with us.
Yes.
So to be clear, does that mean when he was during his evaluations?
Yes.
Are these things that you witnessed yourself?
Yes.
Were they witnessed also by other individuals on the treatment team or at NTMHI?
Yes.
And at one point, was he ever witnessed by someone talking to the TV?
I don't recall
If you
that.
remember, if you would refresh your recollection, look in page 11 of your report. Block quote at the top.
Yes. Yes. Yes, one of our staff reported that he was talking to the TV and he changed his voice multiple times and seemed to be talking about the shooting as though he was someone else. And he was saying things like, "Why did you make me do it?" And I didn't want to do it.
So, fair to say, these delusions progressed and were present even through your treatment of him, or evaluation of him, rather, at NTMHI.
Yes.
So, and we'll come back to the delusions in a moment, but let's talk about hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
What indications or evidence were there of him suffering hallucinations?
There were multiple times while he was at our hospital that he would talk out loud in his bedroom when no one else was around, as if he was having conversations. And he told us at one point that he had conferences with the aliens about different things that needed to happen. That's the only one I can recall. That's the only thing I can recall while he was at our hospital.
All right. What about prior to, like looking at the information that you reviewed?
Yeah, prior to, he reported hearing the voice of aliens in his journals. He reported communicating with them, having conversations with them. He reported hearing the voice of different female celebrities. He reported seeing someone he referred to as his wife, that he believed he was married to some kind of supernatural being that was a shapeshifter, and so he reported seeing her at one point, and she looked like Maleficent.
Going back to the delusions, were you able to talk to Mr. Reinking about his actions on the evening of April 22nd, 2018?
Yes.
And based on what you reviewed, what was his thinking on that evening? What happened on that evening?
His thinking was that he was in danger. He believed he had been stalked and harassed, and multiple attempts were made to kill him. he believed that it was this unknown entity that was kind of out to get him. He thought he had been drugged, sexually assaulted, his apartment broken into multiple times, like I said, attempts on his life. So he believed that he was acting in self-defense.
And was there any event that happened earlier that evening that you recall him mentioning or writing about from what you reviewed that triggered those fears to escalate?
Yes. He reported that his apartment was broken into that day.
Okay. And what caused him to go when he did?
He reported that he got a message from God telling him to carry out the shooting.
And do you recall how he said he received the message?
He said it was just kind of a thought that was put into his head, like it was a direct kind of implant from God.
And you've been able to review the surveillance video from the Waffle House, is that correct?
Yes.
And you were able to note from that video that what he was wearing.
Yes.
Based on what information you have about that night for Mr. Reinking, was there any significance to him as to why he was dressed the way he was?
Yes. He said that God told him to wear that particular jacket, and he reported embarrassment of going out in public wearing it, but he said that's the direction that he got from God.
And you said something about Mr. Reinking saying that he was acting in self-defense. Has he ever talked to you? Did he ever talk to you about why he was there, about why he felt like he had to do what he did at the Waffle House?
He reported the belief that the people at the Waffle House were involved. He said in his journal entries that they were CIA and FBI agents, and that some of the staff poisoned his food multiple times.
Okay. Did he persist in his belief while you were talking to him that he was acting in self-defense?
Yes.
You said he wrote to the court, wrote some different letters at different times while he was in your care, correct?
No, not
Or
while he
prior
was
to.
in our care, prior to.
Prior to,
yes.
sorry. So, at some point, were you able to form an opinion as to whether or not Mr. Reinking could appreciate that his actions on the night of April 22nd, 2018 were wrong?
Yes, I did.
And what is that opinion?
That he did not believe they were wrong.
Why?
He believed his life was in danger and he was acting in self-defense. And he also believed that he got the command from God to do it.
Now, from watching the video and the information you reviewed, you're aware that Mr. Reinking, after he committed the acts at the Waffle House, fled.
Yes.
Does that in any way affect your opinion, the fact that he fled, affect your opinion that he could not appreciate what he was doing was wrong?
It does not. It's definitely something I took into consideration, but I still came to the conclusion that I did.
And from Mr. Reinking's perspective, why run?
He reported the belief that the police were involved in the attacks against him. So it would make sense for him to run.
Time now for a quick break, but when we come back, you'll hear some of the cross-examination of Dr. Raina Eisen. Welcome back. Now, today was day 4 in the Waffle House shooting trial, and defendant Travis Reinking is accused of walking into a Waffle House in 2018 and fatally shooting 4 people. The defense claims that Reinking was not legally sane at the time of the shooting because he was suffering from schizophrenia and delusions. And during the defense's case in chief, they called Dr. Raina Eisen, a psychologist, to the stand. Now, before the break, we listened to some of her direct testimony where she described some of the defendant's delusions. So what I want to do now is take a look at some of her intense, and I mean intense, cross-examination.
Dr. Eisen, you would agree that the fact that he felt nauseous by his own actions indicates he understood the wrongfulness of them, correct?
No.
Feeling nauseous over what you've just done because it seems evil? You're saying that is not an indicator of wrongfulness?
It's an indicator, that he... Yes, it's an indicator that he did not like what he was doing, yes.
He did not like what he was doing. Yeah. He knew it was wrong. He said he was evil. What he is doing is evil. He understands that what he's doing is wrong, correct?
No, he believed that it wasn't wrong because of the command from God.
Dr. Eisen, these are Mr. Reinking's words that he said he remembered a feeling of he was going to throw up because despite, he says, because I was like, this is something God told me to do, but it seems evil. It seems foreboding. That is Mr. Reinking expressing his own feelings. He knows it's evil. He is expressing his understanding of wrongfulness. Correct? Dr. Eisen.
Judge.
Give her a chance to answer. I think she was trying to formulate or absorb the entire question.
I believe it's similar to if someone in combat gets an order to kill people. They might not want to kill or like to kill. They might throw up. They might be disgusted by that. But because of the order and the mission, they might not believe what they're doing is wrong.
Dr. Eisen, what you just described was someone who believes what they're doing is wrong, but they do it anyway because they're ordered to do it. So they don't like it. They don't want to do it. They feel compelled to do it. They do it anyway, but they understand that it's wrong. That's why they're throwing up.
No, I'm describing someone that's conflicted.
Let me ask you a different question. The concept of understanding evil, that indicates that you are able to understand wrongfulness, correct?
Yes, the general concept of evil, yes.
You are weighing good and evil, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Reinking's statement to you was that he believed what he was doing was evil, correct?
He said it seemed evil, I believe, yes.
It seemed to him to be evil.
Correct.
It seemed foreboding.
That's what he said.
And you haven't seen that video that shows him shooting Joe Perez.
No, I'm not.
You did not watch the video that shows Mr. Reinking shooting him. You don't know how many times he shot him, correct?
Correct.
So you don't know anything about what Mr. Reinking is describing to you about this mass murder. You don't know if that statement to you is correct or not, do you? Would it concern you?
Judge, again, she's starting to answer. She's asking
Let her
a
answer.
completely different question.
I'm sorry, I forgot what the question I was trying to answer was.
Dr. Eisen, you don't know if Mr. Reinking is even telling you the truth right here, correct?
Okay. He did not. No, I don't know how many times he shot him. No.
You will agree that someone who wants to give someone a chance to get right with God before they shoot them in the head, that person understands the nature of their conduct, correct?
Yes.
They understand they are firing a weapon, it is shooting bullets, that person is going to die.
Correct.
And Mr. Reinking's understanding of I am purposely not going to shoot this man in the head immediately, I'm going to wait to do that one so that he might be able to ask God for salvation. That is definitely showing an understanding of the nature of his conduct, correct?
Correct.
It is also an understanding of the wrongfulness of his conduct, correct?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe that someone giving someone the chance to ask for salvation from their God is an understanding of what they are doing is right or wrong?
No.
You do not think that that is an indicator of understanding right from wrong, that you would give someone the chance to pray for salvation?
I think that that's an understanding of religious views of right from wrong in that instance, yes.
So you do agree that giving someone the chance to get right with God before they are murdered is an indicator the person understands wrongfulness, correct?
Yeah, the general concept, yes, that's correct.
Mr. Reinking's next statement is, then I went inside and there were 2 more in there. I figured they were the personnel who ran the place. And these people were the people who kept saying those things. Now, Dr. Eisen, Mr. Reinking's statements to you are that he's targeting the employees. Do you agree that that statement indicates that's what he was intending to do?
Yes.
He clarified that they were the individuals who were repeating things from his journal. Correct?
Correct.
Now, you saw the video from the inside of the Waffle House.
Yes.
You saw Mr. Reinking when he entered. He did not go left, did he?
I can't recall what direction he went in.
You've seen the video of him gunning down all of those people and you don't remember it?
I remember the video. That detail I do not remember, no.
Well, Dr. Eisen, if you go in this Waffle House, if you walk left, that's how you would get to the kitchen. That's how you would get to where the employees were. If you go right, that's where the bathrooms are. That's customer area only. Mr. Reinking shoots to the left. He doesn't walk that way. And you clearly see Aquila De Silva. You clearly see Shantia Wagner scrambling on the ground trying to get away from him as he's shooting at them. There is no question they are not Waffle House employees. Everybody in that place had hit the deck, but they are scrambling away from him. And you saw him shooting at them, right?
Yes.
And then he turns right and he shoots at Sharita Henderson and Ebony Groves, two girls that are under a booth. They're not Waffle House employees. Now, Dr. Eisen, I realize that you haven't listened to anyone's statement and you haven't watched any of the testimony in this trial, but Sharita Henderson said that he looked her in the eye before he shot her.
Objection. Still testifying, no question.
Sustained unless it's going to be followed up with a question.
Dr. Eisen, you agree that Mr. Reinking went in there to shoot more than just 3 people, correct?
He for a fact shot more than 3 people, yes.
So you've seen that he goes in and he shoots way more than 3 people.
Yes.
His actions are not about any alleged command from God. Even if that were true, he is now making decisions on his own. He is doing what he wants to do, correct?
Yes, that was different than the command that he said he heard.
Strong and comprehensive cross-examination there. All right, the latest episode of the Court TV podcast is now available. This week, Court TV lead anchor Vinnie Politan sat down and spoke with Tiger King star Joe Exotic in an exclusive jailhouse interview where Joe spoke about how he feels as a political prisoner. Take a listen.
So let's take a listen to that phone call that I got from Joe Exotic behind bars.
Why do you think that you're in prison and Carol Baskin is out roaming free?
Okay, well, I can tell you why, and it's pretty obvious. Okay, I'm basically a political prisoner to the Big Cat Safety Act. That's why Carol had me put in prison. When President Trump was ready to leave office, she even went public and said, "I'll help Joe get a pardon if he would support the Big Cat Safety Act and rat on all of his friends."
Now, you can find the Court TV podcast wherever you listen, and it's always available on CourtTV.com. We will be right back.